Thanks to everybody for joining us today for our second district membership exchange. This past week reminded us of how devastating a hurricane can be, and our thoughts and prayers are with those that are impacted over the damage from last weekend. We're pleased today to have Rotary International past president Barry Rassin joining us all the way from the Bahamas. And with this new world we live in, it's great to have Barry join us, and we'll talk a little bit later about Barry and how his home country continues to rebuild after another devastating hurricane hit his land. But first, we want to share with you how a couple of clubs are supporting their communities. Assistant Governor Kevin Silvers is here today to introduce our first initiative from Stratford. Kevin.
Thank you very much, David. Well, we're very fortunate in Stratford to have a dynamic trio of presidents of the different clubs in Stratford. We have the Stratford Rotary Club. The president is Katherine Hahn. We have the Festival City Rotary Club, and the president is Trustee Bertrand. And then we have the Rotaract Club of Stratford, and the president is Rebecca Price. So I'm going to turn it over. I'll let Katherine take the lead, and it's all yours.
So as Kevin said, I'm the president of the Rotary Club of Stratford. Small city of Stratford has a population of about 30,000 people, and it's a pretty unique place to live. It's a city where industry, agriculture, and arts all play an important role in the success of the community. And during these times of COVID, the city has faced incredible financial hardship, particularly with the cessation of the Festival Theatre, an industry that generates more than $135 million in revenue each year. That's a lot of lost income. Community leaders have taken on both bold initiatives in an effort to help stimulate the economy. So Stratford is also unique, as Kevin said, in that for such a small size, we have 3 Rotary clubs. The Rotaract Club, which has about 20 members, the Festival City Club, which has about 35 members, and then the Rotary Club of Stratford that I belong to that has more than 110 members. So each club offers something different to people who want to make a difference in our community. We differ in our age ranges, our meeting times, the size, the breadth and depth of the impact that we each make in our community. So the Rotary Club of Stratford, with 110 members, is a pretty big ship to steer. It takes some doing to change a direction when you're a big outfit like that, and it's definitely an advantage that smaller clubs in the district have. We have our strength in numbers, they have their strength in flexibility. But what we share in common, however, is a drive and a desire to do good in our community. After all, we are Rotarians first, members of our respective clubs, yes, but always Rotarians first. So Christy, Rebecca, and I, as we began preparing for our upcoming year, and thanks to some president-elect training from District Governor Dave, the 3 of us started connecting. At first, it was just a casual email to ask, how are you planning to implement this? What are your goals towards accomplishing that? And in doing so, we started to build this connection where we could share our experiences and support one another. So both Rebecca and Christy were not able to join us today because of their busy work schedules. And I was going to paraphrase their notes about what their perspectives are about how our little President's Tea, which is what we call it, is working. But I thought instead that I'm just going to read to you exactly what they sent to me because I would like you to hear it from their voice. So I'll start with Rebecca. She is the Rotaract Club president. She says, I just wanted to share a little bit about the President Tea I attend with Christy and Katherine. I consider myself still very new to the Rotaract and Rotary world, so this tea has been very special to me. She says our teas involve brainstorming and discussions about projects, how their clubs are functioning, and ways that we can collaborate. We provide a listening ear to each other and a different perspective, something that has been so valuable during COVID. She says, I really appreciate the face-to-face approach to information sharing. In a world of emails, it's so nice to hear about their projects in person. We are able to recommend speakers to or share project ideas. Rotaract has an upcoming community cleanup that and she says we are going to be more than just Rotaractors there. Friendship and connections are something that is also important to me, and this has been one of the biggest benefits for me. Christy and Katherine have been a tremendous support, and I am very grateful we have continued with this tea. So Christy from the Festival Club says, I regret that I'm unable to attend today as the last day of the month work fills up my day. A job that has gotten much busier because of partnership between organizations and Rotary clubs. She says, I met with my team at Conestoga Career Center today to work on a project that involves the Rotary Club of Stratford where the Rotary Club of Stratford successfully applied for 2 and 4 funding. The Skilled Workers Sustainable Communities Project is supported by the Government of Canada's Emergency Community Support Fund and the Community Foundation in Stratford. And it has been made possible by partnerships with the Rotary Club of Stratford Charitable Foundation, Conestoga Career Center, local and non-profit and charity organizations through the workforce, nonprofit and charitable arm of the Economic Response and Recovery Task Force. Wow, those are big words. And Christy, of course, has led that as the Festival City President. It helps to match currently unemployed professionals in our community with local charities in hopes of strengthening our not-for-profit community in the wake of COVID-19. Christy says, when RI announced the theme for this year, I took pause to think on all the ways it applies to our roles in this community. Opening opportunities is what I do in my vocation and what I consider as part of service. Having graduated college as a graphic artist, I even looked at the logo and immediately noticed the 3 doors, in line with Stratford's club structure, 2 Rotary clubs and a Rotaract club. Though silly, it seemed the perfect fit for a little Photoshop action to introduce 3 female leaders in one community, working together to welcome everyone. Each of our clubs are unique, but as part of the same Rotary family. Katherine set up the photo shoot, I created the logo, and Rebecca amplified the message by sharing it widely. I am grateful to meet with these women regularly to talk about what we're working on, to see if there is an opportunity for partnership, and to laugh and brainstorm opportunities that haven't yet become Rotary projects this year and beyond. So thanks to Christy and Rebecca for sharing their perspectives. So together we have come to see that there are many opportunities for our clubs to work collaboratively. We are already working on youth initiatives together, and now we're working towards a collaborative environmental committee where we can all work together towards common goals. After all, we live in the same community that will benefit from all of our efforts. Not only is it nice to have camaraderie, a shoulder to lean on with dealing with issues within our clubs, but we have come to appreciate each other's strengths and skill sets. Christy is a real go-getter who digs in deep on environmental initiatives, as well as using her professional vocation to help funding opportunities with our clubs. It was on her encouragement that our club was able to secure funding to pay our sewists for making masks for our COVID mask project. Rebecca Price and her energetic, tech-savvy membership have initiated their own, and I hope you guys are watching it. It's called 101 Things Worse Than Wearing a Mask. That's their social media campaign. And being the old girl in the bunch, I bring the element of experience to Rotary, particularly with international service and projects. And that's just what the 3 of us collaboratively brings to the community. Imagine what 175 dedicated community leaders can do when we combine our efforts. Together, we really are opening opportunities. Thanks for letting me have a few words with you.
Thank you very much, Katherine, for giving us that lovely insight into the workings of Rotaract and Rotary in Stratford. You really were connected by the 3 groups coming together, and for me, you embody Rotary's vision statement, where together we see a world where people unite, take action to create lasting change across the globe in our communities and in ourselves. And the 3 groups working together like that, I think you're a perfect example of that togetherness. So thank you very much. Please convey our thanks to Rebecca, and so that because she can't be here with you today. So thank you all very much for your contribution and supporting Rotary and your community. Thank you.
Thanks, Johnny.
Now, I have the opportunity to introduce our next guest. When COVID-19 hit us, we encouraged all our clubs to keep connected, be agile, and look to innovate and reinvent their approach to meetings, service, and fundraising. And today I'm delighted to introduce Randy Bird, a relatively new member of the Rotary Club of Port Elgin. And he's going to talk about a reimagined fundraising idea that engaged the community, helped support local business, and help with the club's funding gap in this uncertain time and in time of need. So over to you, Randy.
Thank you for inviting me to speak today. I really appreciate it. As you mentioned, I am a new member, and interestingly enough, I just recently came into semi-retirement, and the reason I chose Rotary is because my mother had polio, and she would have never walked in her life if it wasn't for Rotary. They were a major component in her life, and now it's payback time, and I want to make Rotary a major component in my life. When COVID hit, we all kind of hit a wall in canceling events, canceling fundraisers. We really needed to rethink a lot of things, and we were kind of like deer in headlights. We paused and were kind of lost for a little ways. And I just recently sold my tech company. It was a event ticketing company, ironically. And I said, well, why don't we look at solving several problems? And one of the problems we had in our little community is that retail stores have been shut down for quite a time. And they had tons and tons of inventory just sitting there getting stale. And we live in a beach community, and beach communities do tend to have a real cycle for product. They also couldn't pay their rents. They were in pretty dire need. And the last thing in the world we wanted to do was approach them for donations for an auction. So we came up with a theory that we would buy their inventory for 50 cents on the dollar. We would create a Sunday Fun Day auction, and we would host that auction on Mother's Day and offer same-day delivery, so mom could actually get something taken to her house immediately after purchase. We went through the process of gathering items, and we used Google Forms, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, and we created a simple database, and we mailed it out to the community. We rallied, we talked to the people in the community, and we offered 50 cents on the dollar retail, or less if they wanted 25%, or if they wanted to donate, they could donate 100% of those items. Within a week, we had over 200 items, and the retail stores were just so excited about how this is working, because they could turn product liquidate into cash. We started the concept 3 weeks before Mother's Day, and knowing that they were going to start lifting some of the bans on the retail stores, we wanted to try to get this in as fast as possible. So we made a hard target for auction day of Mother's Day. Then I began panicking because we were sticking our heads out pretty far in the hopes of a successful event. And as it turns out, things did work themselves out, and we ended up gathering enough product to fill a full day of auction. We then created a Stripe account, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but it's a no-cost software that allows us to invoice. We then created a Facebook live event, and then we rallied up all of our internal support. We had 5 or 6 people in the cashiers area. We had 5 or 6 people gathering up product and moving product through. We approached Eastlink Cable and asked them if they'd be prepared to give us a live stream on TV. So we weren't only on Facebook Live, but we're on TV as well. We found the most charismatic Rotary member we had, which he's been around for a long time, and he is hilarious. He's an ex-mayor up here. He's well-known, well-liked, and a young lady with a new, heading up a new charity that we're supporting locally as well. And the two of them turned out to be just an amazing fit. We got our auctions set up, and we started auctioning. We would begin the auctioning with a minimum bid of the lowest value that we were to pay. So if it was 25%, 50%. And I was shocked at this community, because the community just rallied like crazy. And we had, on average, 300 people watching our live feed at any given time. And even at 6 o'clock, because it was over at 6, we ran over with time, of course, and we still had 200 people watching and bidding. People were bidding over the retail value just to support the community. They saw what we were doing for the retailers, and they saw what we were doing for our local charities that we support as well. As a result, we ended up raising $33,000 in 5 hours. We paid out approximately $15,000 to the retailers to support them, and we ended netting about $20,000 for the club, which we spread amongst our commitments that we had already made. And the outbound president was very happy because he was concerned that he was going to go out on a faltering environment, but it turned out that he was able to succeed in paying out his commitments. We are going to do this again, and of course the environment will be different, but we're going to do a Christmas auction. We will be setting it up to try to stimulate the same kind of activity, and we'll be doing it prior to Christmas and using great gift ideas to try to stimulate this again. So that was basically our event. It was a lot of fun to do, but without question, it was a lot of work. I'm sure people watching on TV and Facebook didn't even have a clue how many people were in the background going crazy, trying to stay up with the demand and processing invoices and moving product in and moving product out. And then the guys delivering the product, some of the stuff being delivered same day to make sure mom got her gift. We have an amazing team here. The club members are very active. They're very supportive, and they genuinely care about the community.
So Randy, that's a great presentation, and thank you very much for all the work that you're doing with Rotary. Just shows you what you can do, a little ingenuity as to how to combat with this COVID-19 things and support your community. So congratulations on you and the Rotary Club of Port Elgin, and I'm sure they're pleased to have you on board as a member for that particular club. Thanks again, Randy.
Thank you very much.
Today I have the honor and privilege to introduce our guest speaker, Rotary International past President Barry Rassin. Barry, as he likes to be called, served as RI President in 2018-19, and I have a special connection to this year as I was District Governor for 6330. Barry has been an inspiration for many organizations and Rotarians for a long time. He was named the first fellow of American College of Healthcare Executives in the Bahamas. He retired as president of Doctors Hospital Health System in the Bahamas after 38 stellar years, and he remains a director. A member of the Rotary Club of East Nassau since 1980, and a member of the Rotary International Board of Directors, trustee and vice chair of Rotary Foundation, as well as the chair of Shaping Rotary's Future. He was the founder of Hand Wash, Haiti National Water Sanitation and Hygiene Strategy, and he is now on the Bahamas Rotary Relief Committee working on Hurricane Dorian and COVID-19 relief. You can see that picture. Most of you first became aware of him by this cover of the July 2018 Rotarian. A picture of him and his wife Esther with a group of pink flamingos, all going in one direction except for one, that change maker. His message in that edition really resonated with me. And he said, and I quote, "Each of us came to Rotary because we had a longing to have an impact, to make a difference, to be part of something larger than ourselves." This was part of the reason he chose "Be the Inspiration" for his theme. Barry continues to be a change maker, continues to be that inspiration. And I know we will be inspired listening to him today. Sit back and enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, Rotary International past President Barry Rassin.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Jim. I really appreciate that very nice introduction. And thank you for spotlighting the flamingos, because they really are important to most of my messages, because we all need to adapt, especially in this day and age, for the need for change. And I'd like to thank District Governor David for inviting me to speak with you today. And I congratulate the clubs and thank you for bringing a Rotaract club on board. I think that ties right into what we're trying to get our young professionals and our younger generations more involved. My job today is to talk to you a little about how Rotary responded in our major disaster, Hurricane Dorian. In order to really go into the detail of what Rotary did, you need to appreciate what that hurricane was and what it did. So I want to just explain and kind of set the scene for you, if you will. But here we were, and by the way, tomorrow is a 1-year anniversary from when Hurricane Dorian hit. And on that 11/30, September 1st of last year, the residents still talk about that moment in time when they got hit. And keep in mind that Hurricane Dorian was only a Category 2 days before. So the residents, you know, we've been through hurricanes, we're used to that. Category 2, you know, just put your shutters down, hunker down, and we'll get through it. And before you knew it, Hurricane Dorian was a Category 5, which we had never been hit before with such a massive, destructive hurricane. It was upon us. And it sat over 2 of our islands, Grand Bahama and the Abacos, for 36 hours. Did not move at all. Now, I've seen hurricanes move slowly, 1 mile an hour, 2 miles an hour, but this literally was stationary with no movement and just battering them with up to 220 mile an hour winds. We are already only 3 feet above sea level on average as a country, and we had 3 feet of rain. So right away, we're up to sea level. And then we had a 23-foot surge. Imagine, 23 feet of rain. And where do you go? Where can you be safe? We didn't evacuate because we don't evacuate in hurricanes. We're used to just taking care of ourselves and our property. So we had people who were scrambling into their attic to get away from the water in their house, because by this time the first floor of every house was full. And we had people actually drown in their attics because they didn't bring a hammer or a knife or anything so they could chop their way through the roof, and they drowned up there. We had a friend who was hanging on to a telephone pole in the water for a long time, and he ended up holding on to his wife with one arm. And if you could just imagine this for him, he could feel her slipping away, and he just didn't have the energy or the muscle any longer. And he watched her wash out to sea. And I tell you that because I want you to know how destructive this hurricane was. 36 hours go by, and we in Nassau, we had rain and wind, but nothing serious. So we geared up immediately to go to do whatever we could to help, not realizing the utter destruction that was there. And Grand Bahama was really one piece of the island which got destroyed, but the center of the economy, Marsh Harbor of Abaco, was completely wiped out. There wasn't a house left standing. All you see is the actual platform that the house is built on. The rest is gone. Or there's just a lot of damage. The roof's all gone. People had nowhere to go. And there's nothing there. So Rotary jumped. Rotary said, we've got to do whatever we can to help. And before you know it, as soon as the water was able to allow us, we took a flotilla of boats from Nassau to Abaco, and we started picking up individuals. In Freeport, Grand Bahama, they had an ability to go to another part of the island. But in Abaco, they had nowhere to go. So our flotilla boats started bringing them back while people were trying to clear the airport over those days so we could bring in some small planes anyway. But we brought, I think there was 25 boats, and we just kept bringing back and forth, bringing individuals into Nassau and Eleuthera and Spanish Wells, some of the other islands. If they had relatives, they would go wherever they had a relative. In Nassau, we set up the local private airport where small planes come in. And we set that up as a place where we could register everybody coming in, because we want to know who they are and what their issues are and kind of follow up so we can keep helping them as they try to adjust to this. Rotarians manned the computers so we could register and know who everybody is and what they do and where they're going. We had 8 different shelters set up, and each Rotary Club on this island adopted a shelter so we could then help them find out what their needs were, make sure they were being managed appropriately by the government, make sure they had food and supplies, etc. And our clubs would visit the shelters every single day. And I got to tell you, to be a part of that and to see individual Rotarians who stood up every single day to go out and help other people was absolutely remarkable. They're tireless. And it's a year later and they're still doing it, because we got the projects we're doing, which I'll tell you a little about. But these are the same individuals day after day after day for a year now. It continues to make me so proud to be a Rotarian, because this truly is an organization of members who make our world a better place. And we do it on a regular basis without anybody having to ask. We just go and do it. And that's fabulous. So now we've got these evacuees, 1,500 to 2,000 evacuees in shelters. We have to try to help with the food. We have to try to help with supplies. And we do that on a regular basis. But, really our strength, we do that in our local areas, but our strength as an organization is the long-term relief. Because locally, Rotary is going to be there for the long term. The international NGOs came in and they helped, but we're there forever. The international NGOs come in, they help, and they go. They do good work, don't get me wrong, and they're a gigantic help, but they're for a limited period of time, where we're here for the long time. So we had a district. My district is 10 countries in the Caribbean and the Bahamas. So we're spread out as a district, but we set up a disaster committee, and they met every single week. We only a couple of weeks ago started meeting every 2 weeks. That's a year now that we meet every single week on a Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. Then we set up a local Bahamas disaster relief, and we met every week. We started a while back. When we started projects, we started meeting every 2 weeks, because putting the due diligence together for each project took time in between meetings. Another beauty for us is that Grand Bahama is actually part of District 6990, which is South Florida. So we have a direct connection to Rotary in South Florida. And I put all of them on a pedestal, because they just stood up and they did everything they possibly could to help us with everything that we needed. And to this day, we just send a note over, any chance you could help us with this? They don't even ask about it. They just say, of course we can. What do you need? How do we do it? Give us the details. And they do. And like I said, this Rotary is just incredible. Last I checked, we received over 250 tons of supplies from Rotary in Florida. Now you think about how much a ton is. We got 250 tons of supplies put together and assembled, put on a ship, shipped over to Grand Bahama primarily, and then Rotarians unloaded and distributed to our residents and whoever's happened to be in the country on that particular island. But that's the kind of quantity of supplies. This morning I sent District Governor David a documentary that Rotary just completed, and we aired it last night for the first time. So I sent him a link for that. It's about 32 minutes. If you wish to look at it, you can actually see for yourselves the destruction. But more importantly, you could hear from residents what they thought of Rotary and how Rotary helped them. And I think that helps you understand and appreciate the kind of organization and the kind of members that we have. So that was kind of, in the early days, we're getting supplies in. We provided food, we provided everything you could imagine. Of course, COVID-19 came along, and then we started providing PPEs as well, because the residents wouldn't have had that. We're right now working on a project to get PPEs for all the students in the schools so we can get the schools back in some semblance of education. I'm not sure, we're not ready for either in-person, because we haven't rebuilt the schools, we haven't finished, and we haven't really got a good distance learning. So we're in the process of helping with that program as well. Rotary in Freeport had created, through a global grant 10 years ago, an emergency water supply. only to be used in emergencies so that we didn't compete with the local water vendors. So we provided and built this water plant with a global grant with partners out of California, Rotary in California. And every time there's a hurricane, which is every couple of years, we were the first ones on the ground with water. This hurricane, as I said, was different. This was devastating. This destroyed all the water wells in the country, on the island. So everyone ended up with brackish salt water. Guess what? Except for Rotary. So we were the only fresh water on the island, and we were there manning it 24 hours a day. We finally converted to a self-service so people could come up and fill their own 5-gallon bottles and at least have water to drink. Rotary first to provide water. I think that's really critical that we are known to be there and known to be on the ground, because then people want to help us and be a part of what we do. So since then, now we've got an ongoing roofing project in Grand Bahama. I could try and talk about Grand Bahama first, then I'll get to Abaco. But we're doing a roofing project, so we're rebuilding not the whole house, but just the roof. So the individuals at least have a dry place they can stay as they rebuild and put in the new windows and they gut the house and those kind of things. But at least give them a dry place to be. And we've done 50, 60 roofs so far, and we will continue with that project in Grand Bahama. We also have a project ongoing for the fishermen, where we helped refiberglass their boats, because all the boats now are washed on land. So we had to kind of get them from the middle of the island, get them near the water, fix the fiberglass, and then we put a global grant together to replace 30 engines. So we $189,000 for the grant, and we replaced 30 engines so the fishermen could get out on the water, start to get their economy going again, start to earn a living again. And we want to do another 30 engines. We've got the boats ready. But as you know, the pressure on the World Fund for Global Grants right now is a challenge. So I'm not sure we'll be able to do that, but we'll come up with the money somehow. We also put together 2 portable laundry units so we could drive from community to community so individuals could do their laundry. You know, when everything is destroyed, you can't do any wash. So we have those, and we would go into communities and they can do their washing and drying. We also purchased 2 TAC units, technical assistant units, one for Freeport and one for Abaco. And the United Nations Development Program is going to man them for us with experts on our building codes, on psychologists who can deal with the trauma, individuals to help everybody get to know enough to make sure they rebuild properly. So we provided those. We will maintain ownership. They maintain and operate so that when they're finished with this disaster, we can use them for the next disaster, trying to think long term. So then let's move to Abaco. Again, a much bigger, wider, expansive project. One of the first things we did is we brought in a portable reverse osmosis unit so we could bring them water. And we brought that into Treasure Key, one part of Abaco. And we are producing 10,000 gallons a day. And again, it's free to the residents until they get their vendors going with water again. And again, it's portable, so we can use it in the next disaster, whatever island that happens to be. We also had early on moved the orphans from an orphanage in Abaco to the orphanage in Nassau. We bought them 26 more bunk beds so they had a place to sleep, because they were already full, and we just extended their capacity. And we gave them $100,000 so they could have the supplies they needed to support all these children. So that's all Rotary doing. We also started a roof program in Abaco. One roof we did was for the lighthouse keeper, because we have an iconic lighthouse in Abaco that is known by everybody who's ever been there on a boat. We want to make sure that icon stays. So we replaced the roof for the lighthouse keeper, but we're also working on many roofs over individuals. But we're not just doing the roof in Abaco, we're doing the whole house. So we've done 7 houses so far. We're working on the next 10, and we will just continue as long as we have funding to do that. We have a big project going with the Aldersgate Center, which is a church, community center, a school, and a shelter for the next hurricane. So we want to get them back because this is hurricane season, as you know, and we need to be ready in case. And there's another one coming off Africa right now heading at us. We don't know what will happen to it, but we need to be as ready as we can, and Abaco simply isn't yet. We also just bought a Jaws of Life, which is one of those big pieces of equipment to cut people out of cars or whatever. Theirs was destroyed, so we want to provide that in case there's another disaster. We want to make sure that's there. We're currently working on funding of all the gaps in the schools. There's 14 schools in the Abacos, and we want to make sure they can get back to school. So, and honestly, the government has been in a quandary as what to do from day one, which is why it's taken us so long. I'm giving an example. Our building code says you have to build 18 inches above the known flood level. Well, if the known flood level is now 23 feet, how do we rebuild? So the government had to make those kind of decisions before we could even start any of this. And so it's taken a long time to get them to tell us what we can do. And the Minister of Education has finally said, yes, here's a list of things. And we got all the school groupings together so we could all talk about what we're all doing and coordinate the effort, because education wasn't doing that. So we're doing that. We just had a meeting on Friday, and we're going to work on the furniture for the schools, the desks, chairs, and the tablets, computers. And in that discussion, I realized that they have no internet because they still have no power. A year later, they still have no power in most houses because the house isn't finished. So they have no internet. So we're having a meeting today about creating a hub where we can bring in an internet connection and create a community Wi-Fi, and then give the kids the tablets, those who don't have them, so they can get back to school. So we're in that process now, trying to get the details of what we need for the schools. So we'll get them. So far, we've spent over $900,000. We still have 1.5 million, but you know, in Rotary, we like to leverage our money. So we really want to spend about $10 million, mostly in the Abacos at this point, but we're also helping Grand Bahama. There's just so much to do, and we've got to keep doing it. We've got to help them get back together. We've also provided some psychologists so that we could work with the individuals. I mean, you can't imagine the trauma that so many of them have been through. If you get to see the documentary, you'll hear some of them talk about how it's still with them a year later, and they're still trying to deal with what has happened. It's just, I mean, we had a lot of deaths, which we never have in a hurricane. And I've been through 14 hurricanes. None of those ever had a death. In this one, we had some. We don't know the number. I would say 300 or 400, but I know there's about 500 still missing. Don't know what happened. Again, you got 23 feet of water, and they're washed out to sea or into the. Anyway. That's a challenge. So we've got a lot of work to do to help the individuals as individuals and to help the community to rebuild. And it's just critical that we do that as Rotary, and we do it every day. We bring in partners to help us. As you know, whenever we do anything, if we get partners, we can do so much more with the partners to provide the kind of support. So as I say, we want to do at least $10 million worth of relief efforts, and we will accomplish that. We've worked with UNICEF locally. This is Rotary. Working with UNICEF, we worked with the United Nations. We've worked with USAID. We worked in Samaritan's Purse. We worked with Lily Renee Foundation. We've worked with the Red Cross. If we all work together, and some of them, they like to do their own thing. Okay, I understand that. I think we could do so much more when we coordinate our efforts, and I think they're beginning to see that, and Rotary being the leader of that is making it work. So it's a tough challenge, but you know, in a disaster, we all step up and we all do what we need to do to help our fellow man and woman. And I really appreciate this Reverend David inviting me. I appreciate you all listening. As I say, if you have time, look at the documentary. give you a little better feel for the emotions. I can't talk about too many of them because I get emotional. I don't want to be breaking down in front of you today. But thank you for all you do. Thank you for what Rotary does around the world, because truly what we do here is because of what Rotary around the world does. And we just all reach out and help each other every time we need to. And we are the best humanitarian organization in the world. Don't ever forget that. Be proud to be a Rotarian. Be proud of your club and everything you do. Thank you so much for giving me the time.
Barry, it's my privilege to express a note of appreciation on behalf of the District 6330 clubs for being with us today, and the emotion is okay. Your talk on the worst natural disaster in this country's history as one of the most powerful hurricanes recorded in the Atlantic Ocean was absolutely fascinating, especially for those of us who have never experienced such a freak nature. Thank you for that. Your presentation today illustrated the effective way in which you personally marshaled Rotarians and then District 7020 to respond to the horrific storms in both Epicos and the Nassau. Congratulations for the success you achieved in helping others. Indeed, the Rotary world should be grateful to you for your work in disaster management. You have been at it for a long time. Your leadership, shown even before Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas, is a revealing glimpse into the responses and the role Rotary can play in disaster recovery and rebuilding. That's also been the case with Hurricanes Matthew and Katrina, Rita, and other examples. Barry, it seems like just yesterday that you and I broke bread together with Esther in your beautiful Nassau home during one of the Bahamas Rotary Disaster Relief Committee workshops. That was well before the events that you described so well today, and I have happy memories of those days. And when you combine that kind of Rotary fellowship with service, we have a winning formula to Rotarians and to those who would follow your lead to be the inspiration, your presidential theme. It's not surprising that the Bahamian government named you an Officer of the Order of Distinction and Rotary International the Service Above Self-Recognition. Barry, your consistent and longtime support for the Rotary Foundation is well known. Our club is particularly grateful for your role in coordinating Rotary disaster rebuilding efforts in Haiti after the devastating 2010 Haitian earthquake and indeed the 2017 hurricane there. You led the way in supervising the completion of 105 release and development projects in that country. Thanks to you, my Rotary Club of London, with the support of many District 6330 clubs, took advantage of the funding contribution agreement to help many schools in Port-au-Prince area with furnishings and the rebuilding of 2 specific schools. Your leadership continued when Hurricane Matthew came through a few years ago. That affected the area in Haiti, where our clubs have also been very active. Thank you for that as well. You supported the Rotary Foundation in many ways, and because it's Rotary's top priority, we will honor you today by contributing funds for the immunization of children in our continuing Polio Plus campaign. All Rotary rejoiced, of course, the news that Africa was declared to be polio-free just last week. And as you know so well, we will change the life of every child who will ever be born on this earth by eradicating polio. That's why we honor our guest speakers by keeping the faith to that promise that we made so many years ago. We're making a further contribution to the Polio Plus campaign in your name. Thanks again, Barry, and we wish you well as you move through another door of opportunity. You've just been appointed to the Board of Directors of the Rotary Foundation, and I know you will continue to serve Rotary by being the inspiration in yet another position of leadership. We all wish you the very best for the future.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Very nice. It's great to see you.
And Barry, I have another pleasant chore to perform today. This year, Governor David has invited Rotarians of District 6330 to engage Rotary and its phenomenal foundation. When we do that, we open doors to opportunities. The world becomes a better place. No matter how much we do for Rotary, no matter how hard we work, we can never repay Rotary for how much it does for us and how much it's changed the lives, as you have just described. The annual fund of the Rotary Foundation is the primary source of unrestricted support for its programs. You mentioned that we need to replenish the annual fund, and we have the need for programs. That comes from everything from digging clean water wells for villages in Africa, to teaching basic literary skills to children in Latin America. By any given moment of the day, thousands of Rotarians volunteer their time and their expertise to ensure all contributions given to the annual fund are spent wisely on quality Rotary projects. It's about the people we help. The more you engage Rotary, the more we pour our hearts into Rotary service. The greater is our own joy. David and Susan Elliott have been generous in your support of the foundation. By significant donations like yours, we provide community service and poverty reduction, healthcare and the environment, to youth and vulnerable populations, and all those programs cost money. In the 2018-19 Rotary year, $126 million was donated to Rotary's Foundation Annual Fund. The annual fund is comprised of donations from Rotarians, friends of Rotary, and corporate matching gifts to leverage our donations. And only through generous contributions to the foundation do we reach the goal of international understanding and peace through its humanitarian educational programs. David and Susan, I am sure that it seems that you have not just engaged Rotary, but you become married to Rotary. Your fellowship and service experiences have led to increasingly more demanding leadership opportunities. You've developed a trust and a faith in the work of our foundation. And of course, it's not just about the money, it's about what the money does for humanity. And there's so much more need. David, you and Susan have brought into this vision by supporting the foundation for many years. You paid it forward. David, you're a leader in so many ways, and today we get to recognize you and your life partner in an important way. The Rotary Foundation also opens doors of opportunities for recognition. Today we have the privilege of recognizing you and the First Lady of the district as the newest May donors to our foundation. You have accumulated a significant sum of money donated to a foundation in which you hold so much confidence. In Rotary, we know that everything we do makes a difference. Today, you have strengthened the work of the foundation by becoming major donors. The crystal inscribed with your names will provide the assurance of self-fulfillment, personal satisfaction for supporting our vehicle for world understanding and peace. Our foundation promises so much to so many. It deserves our support, and you have recognized it as your favorite charity. We thank you both as major donors for your contribution, and also because you become the inspiration for others to explore why the foundation deserves our support. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please press the applause button on your Zoom page? Help me thank and pay tribute to our newest major donors, the Rotary Foundation of Rotary International, David and Susan Elliott.
Thank you, John. So eloquently put, and I really appreciate it. But I do want to say this major donor recognition started with somebody asking me to make a donation to the foundation. When I was a new member starting off, I was paying my dues, and Sandy Ronson, our club administrator, asked if I'd like to make a donation to the foundation. I said, what would that do? What is it that my money is going to help the foundation? She quickly talked to me about polio and some of the projects that are both locally and worldwide, and I said yes. And over the years, Susan and I have decided to change from a single deposit to monthly donations. And really what this is, it's just accumulation of all those monthly contributions and single ones that we've added that get us to this level. And so it really was never our goal to be major donors, but with what's happening with Rotary and how we can help support some of the projects, it's indeed a pleasure. But today I want to thank Sandy for asking me to be part of making donations. So today I've taken some of the points that we have accumulated over the years, and I've used those to top up her donations and be recognizing her with a Paul Harris today. Sandy, I don't know if she's with us or not, but she is a wonderful lady. She's been supporting our club's administration for almost 25 years. And Sandy, it's a big honor for me to give you this Paul Harris today. And someday when we're together, we'll actually give you a hug as well. So again, thank you, Sandy, for all you do for the club. It is also my pleasure today, though, we have the Rotary Foundation trustee, Brenda Cressey, who has joined us. She was coming in as a guest, but I said, no, Brenda, you have to come in and have a chat. So she's going to be bringing greetings from the Foundation's Board of Directors. Thanks, Brenda, for coming today.
Thank you so much, District Governor David, and congratulations and thank you to both you and Sue. This is just a wonderful meeting to be on, to have an opportunity to see you both inducted as major donors. Thank you so much. Thank you also for inviting me to be on the same Zoom call as my very special friend and past president, Barry. Barry may know by now that I'm one of his favorite groupies. I follow him everywhere, and I was delighted to be able to come on today and just say a few words about the foundation. We're here this afternoon because Rotarians are healers, and we aspire to do just a little bit of healing in the world with everything we touch. And it's not just for the moment, it's for the long term. Service is definitely what brought me to Rotary and lies at the heart of everything that our foundation does. The Rotary Foundation, I believe, is the lifeblood of this organization. And we know that because of stories like Barry's. It is the lifeblood. It is the one thing that transforms our gifts into service projects and changes lives close to home and around the world. Your gifts all make a difference in any one of the areas of focus. And I'm so delighted to be part of a task force that just recently introduced the environment as a 7th area of focus to the trustees. And it was wholeheartedly accepted and adopted. And we're now creating the policy as to how you will be able to do projects that, again, impact the world through environmental projects. Nothing better than music to Barry's ears, I'm sure. You may have heard this, perhaps not, but in June, the trustees changed the mission statement of the Rotary Foundation. And I want to just read it to you because we simplified it and we also added something about the environment. The Rotary Foundation helps Rotarians advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace by improving health, providing quality education, improving the environment, and alleviating poverty. But really, what does that mission statement stand for, and what impact can we gift make? Well, just this past week, the world celebrated the eradication of the wild polio virus from the entire continent of Africa, leaving just Pakistan and Afghanistan as the final 2 countries. This is an extraordinary example of Rotary's legacy and its commitment to wipe polio off the face of this earth. And when you think about the power of Rotary and its partnership with the World Health Organization, UNICEF, CDC, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and how its polio infrastructure, the very infrastructure that we all built together for polio eradication, is now currently being utilized to fight COVID-19. Rotarians, you can't be anything short of proud. And when you think about how 60 cents will protect a child from polio, or how $50 will provide clean water to help fight waterborne diseases, or how $500 will launch an anti-bullying campaign to create a safe environment for our children, aren't you just thrilled to know how your gifts can truly impact and change lives, at the same time knowing that we are living up to our new mission statement? You've heard this before. Polio eradication will continue to be Rotary's #1 priority, and I know that you will all continue to support the effort until we've seen that last case of polio and beyond. Being part of Rotary has been one of the greatest joys of my life, and helping to lead the foundation last year was truly one of the most gratifying experiences I've ever had. This year, especially during the pandemic, these uncertain times, I ask that you please keep up the incredible momentum. Be sure you personally support our foundation this year and every year in order to keep up with the demand we just heard about, to help have the matching funds available for the outstanding and transformational projects that we all do collectively. Special thanks to all of you who support our foundation on both an annual basis, and to those of you who have created a legacy by making a bequest in your estate plans. Again, it's only through your generous support that we will preserve the integrity and the power of our Rotary Foundation. This district has a generous giving record, and I want to sincerely acknowledge each and every one of you for your support. You know, there's so many ways to make a gift to the foundation. There's polio, the annual fund, the areas of focus, the disaster response fund, projects, and even the World Fund. Trust me, I appreciate that at times it can be a little bit confusing. But think of it this way. I like to say that the annual fund changes lives today, and a gift to the endowment by way of a bequest ensures saving lives long into the future. Every single donation, in other words, whatever it is, know how it will help and change lives. So thank you again for having me share these thoughts with you today. And now it gives me the greatest pleasure to introduce past District Governor Don Moore, who will review how Rotary Youth Exchange opened opportunities and made a huge impact on his life. Don?
Thank you very much, Brenda, for your introduction. I'm just going to share my screen here. And anyway, what I wanted to talk about, what youth exchange has meant for me. And every year our district has been so fortunate in hosting such wonderful young people from all over the world. And here you see a few of them who have enjoyed our Blue Mountain Ski Resort every February for many, many years, hosted by the Rotary Club of Thornbury, Clarksburg. But what is youth exchange? You know, how has it inspired me? You look at these young people from one of our conferences, and I can remember the very first district interview conference I attended. I believe it was 1997. And we had a presenter. This is before we had PowerPoint and other ways of presenting. And one of the students that spoke, she had slides and she talked about how all the students in her district in France were going to eat at the beaches, you know, of course, thinking we're going to go to the beach and have a good time. But what these students did was at the beaches of Normandy, they wrote the word peace in their own language in the sand on that beach. And so I asked these students here at one of our conferences to do the same thing. I didn't have any sand, so they wrote the word peace in their language on their hands. And this is what Rotary Youth Exchange is about. It's about understanding different cultures and all the kinds of things that these young people bring. It's just so amazing to see the kind of stories that they actually share with us. We have exciting people. Our Rotex. This is a gentleman who was an exchange student to Brazil, who, you know, just loved this program so much. And at one of our breakfast meetings, we were making pancakes, and he decided to write the word Rotary. These are some of the members of our district youth exchange committee. These are dedicated people that have been in this program for so many, many years. And I know some of them are on this webinar today. One of our classes of our outbound students going abroad, these kids are looking forward to that exchange. And, you know, we go to about 15, 16 different countries every year, except for this year. And unfortunately, we had to cancel youth exchange for 2021. But we bring students here. We have a current student. We have a new generations exchange student who herself was an exchange student from Mexico going to Brazil. And we had a former exchange student who came back to visit from Japan. These students come back to us. We have our leaders within our youth exchange program who dedicate so many hours, so many weekends to make sure that these kids are prepared. We have students who return back after many, many years being away. Here's a young man who came back with his entire family and his wife. He currently is a lawyer living in Brazil. I had a student come back over Christmas time several years ago. She's a medical doctor in Poland. And, you know, she actually hopes to come back to Canada one day and actually practice. We meet Rotary International presidents at our Grand Rapids conference held at Calvin College every year. Here was a chance when Will Wilkinson was our president, and when Rotary shares. And of course, we meet all kinds of presidents coming to Rotary or coming to Grand Rapids. Here, Barry Rassin and his wife Esther. Barry and his wife visited every breakout session by district within Central States Rotary Youth Exchange. It was something that no Rotary International president has ever done before. And we were so honored and pleased to have Barry and Esther join us that day. Then we have students that come from all walks of life, you know, all different countries, all different religions. And it's just to see how happy they are and how proud they are to share their Rotary pins and share their Rotary blazers. Then, of course, we meet former Rotary Exchange students, someone who's now a Rotarian, you know, and of course we meet them in strange places like Atlanta at the Rotary International Convention. And then, of course, we bring students here, and of course, one of the first things we do is we make sure that they visit a Tim Hortons so they can get their first sweet cap. And then, of course, we have all kinds of events where we take students and take them on excursions, showing what our province and what our district is like. We also have a annual trip where we take students over to Michigan, take them down to Detroit and visit the Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. And then, of course, as one student, Enya came to the Rotary International Convention in Atlanta. Katherine Buckley from Tobermory, she and I drove her down there, and this is how she feels about Rotary. She today is a Rotaractor in Changhua, Taiwan. And so this is it. I love Rotary Youth Exchange. It has changed my life. I love the way that we can mold these young people. They teach us so much. And as each of us gets older, they do grow up. And I know that there are a lot of people that are online today who have been wonderful host families. And without host families, we could never have this program. And to all the host families who are listening, and to all the Rotarians who have hosted exchange students, to all the clubs that have hosted, I thank you very much. We hope to increase our program over the coming years. And so I hope you are one of the clubs that will say, we host Rotary Exchange students. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Don, for sharing your experience with Youth Exchange. And I think most Rotarians would agree that if we want to change the world, we can do it one Rotary student at a time. And your presentation underscores that. My duty here right now, besides thanking you for that presentation, Dawn, is to summarize some of the questions. Throughout the presentations by past President Barry Rassin and the others, we've had comments thanking you for that. And Barry, a great number of those in attendance have thanked you for being an inspiration to them in sharing your story. There were a couple of questions, and we are over the 1 o'clock time, but perhaps I'll just let you answer this one question from Dennis Dinsmore, who is a past district governor, who said, as a fellow MBA and retired hospital administrator, how has your education and experience helped you to be successful with the excellent work that you've done in orchestrating the responses in the Bahamas and in Haiti before that?
Certainly anytime there's a health type project, it's a big help because I know I can relate to what needs to be done and how we're going to do it. As an example, in Treasure Key, I'm actually working on helping them get a connection to the hospital in Nassau so we could create a wellness program in Abaco for them. And we're going to do that with doctors and nurses, looking at the long run. So that's very helpful in Grand Bahama. I'm helping with the hospital because the hospital was destroyed. So we need to actually rebuild a hospital. Meantime, we've got a temporary, and Rotarians in Texas actually sent us 2 temporary hospitals. So working those details is helpful. But in all honesty, doing work in Rotary is all about having a lot of respect and the ability to listen to Rotarians and to know how to work with people in general. When we all work together and everybody respects each other for what we do, then we accomplish so much more. So I think it's working with people. I probably learned more about leadership from Rotary than I ever did from my MBA. I quite often tell people we really should give a master's degree in real life leadership by being a Rotarian for a certain number of years, because this is where the leadership is, because we are changing the world. In the company I was with, we helped people, you know, it was a hospital, but in Rotary, we changed the world. And to me, that's just a very satisfying part of my life. So hopefully that answered his question.
And as I mentioned, we are well over the 1 o'clock time. I'm sure that there would be a great number of questions. And Barry, we could continue to listen to some of your inspiration over quite a long period of time. But I'm going to give things back to David, our district governor, to summarize things and bring this meeting to a close. David?
Thank you, Jim. Really appreciate it. Thank you. You know, your heartfelt comments, the way that you described what was going on. I think we all felt some of what happened. We can't feel everything, but we really appreciate you coming today and all the presenters today. I think I really appreciate the time you take to come and tell us your stories and tell us what you're doing. And again, as Barry said, it's really inspirational, and I'm glad that we're changing lives one day at a time being Rotarians. So our next meeting is going to be on September 23rd, and there's a little bit of a theme. Usually the last speaker is the one we're going to, so we're going to be talking about youth exchange on September 23rd. And we've got some previous youth exchange students who are going to come back and talk about their stories. Again, a great time for anybody to just to dial in and be part of hearing about how Rotary has changed their lives and does so at 1 year at a time. So again, thank you all for coming and have a great week.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barry.